911truth.org is both the name of an international organization and a website. So when I refer to something being at the site, it means it's at 911truth.org. And we have a new section there which is called, it's just entitled New to 9/11 Research, and there are some real core documents. So one of them is the top 40 reasons, which, as I mentioned, is having links added to it right now. So everything will be documented so you can go for further reading. There's a download section, so anybody who needs to flyer, we're adding things to that all the time as they become available. This is a two-sided, not graphically appealing informational flyer that we have, but if you need a master's thesis condensed into 2 pages, this won't be it. And if you make new flyers, let us know so that I can add them to that downloads page. It's stuff for people to be able to just grab from the web and be able to use. And also the 9/11 families, were about the Jersey girls that a lot of people have heard of. We were widows of men killed on 9/11, and together with about 8 other people formed the Family Steering Committee, which pushed for and finally brought about the 9/11 Commission that investigated 9/11. After that was all said and done, and of course they were horribly disappointed that their questions weren't asked, let alone answered, they finally put together sort of a grade card for the commission. So for people who do feel that this was investigated and we should just move on, some things weren't investigated. For instance, like I said, 70% of the 400 questions that the girls put forward that weren't even asked, let alone answered. So there's a really great worksheet right there from them that talks about the commission and what was answered and what wasn't. So I wondered if we first could find out where people are from. There are a lot of people who are already involved in 9/11 Truth. So put your hands up if you're already familiar with and involved in a 9/11 Truth group. Okay, so there are 4 people who aren't. And it's excellent. No, it's great. I just was trying to figure out how to gear the presentation. So I just wanted to ask, Atlanta is here, and North Carolina, Colorado, Athens, Greece? Georgia. We have a group in Greece. And LA, Michigan? You're from Michigan? Seattle? Cool. And you're with 9/11 people in Olympia? No. Really? With Joe Carr? You know Joe Carr? What? Oh, I don't. I have a friend from Kansas City who was at Evergreen with Rachel Corrie and was in Palestine with Rachel. And so, anyway. Another one of those issues that we're not allowed to talk about. So, and you're from where, sir? LA? Right. And you, what kind of work do you do?
I'm just a student with the Student Alliance, like that. I've been catching up on.
Good, good. Well, there's a great group in LA now, so you'll have to link up. They're here. And you're from Santa Cruz and Olympia, and you're from Norway. The presentation that I put together is geared towards social justice activists who really don't want to look much at 9/11 Truth, because we hear a lot from the peace movement and other groups that this distracts from the real work of ending the war or anti-empire work. And we see that this is an integral part of that, but that's part of what we hear a lot. So that's what I was going to present on, and it doesn't seem like that makes very much sense since everybody who's here, for the most part, already understands the importance of 9/11 Truth. So in spite of the fact that you would.
Yeah, I really would, because I run into that a lot in the progressive community.
Right.
And how you actually, approach them, or how to try to understand or try to get them to open up their viewpoint a little bit to bring that in.
Right. Yeah, and I do want to discuss that more at the end, because some of us have done a lot of outreach to various groups who are more or less receptive to what we're saying, and I have some really strong opinions on that, and I'm sure everybody does. other than just frustration, but about ways to reach out and join with other people.
Is it one of the big problems, marginalization now, that we experience because we're like tinfoil hat people or something, you know?
Yeah, but we're not tinfoil hat people. I'd like to say that for the camera. We are not tinfoil hat people. I don't wear them, even the glass. No. Okay, so well, let's just go through some of this. You know, when 9/11 happened, it ushered in a new age of fear, I think, is the key issue here. And so it was a fabulous psychological opportunity for this government and the empire builders to have basically carte blanche approval from Congress and from the United States people and our allies and the mother of all coalitions, including Fiji, to all join together and further American hegemony without really asking any questions. And the people who did ask questions have been marginalized and shut down and made to be more afraid. Anthrax was very useful in that regard. The media and the people who were pushing Daschle and Leahy received anthrax. Daschle was pushing for an investigation, and Leahy was balking at the thought of the Patriot Act. So it was very useful in getting people to stop their questioning and open up the doors for further hegemony. And we should get more chairs, looks like. You can do that. I'll do that. Excuse me. Hi. Justice takes all kinds of forms, but I believe strongly that until we look at 9/11, we are not going to be able to get the support we need or the funding we need for any of the other social justice issues that we're faced with right now. And the American empire is going to continue to grow, at least in part because Americans don't ask questions and aren't able to voice their dissent. And I thought we'd talk about some of the outcomes of 9/11, starting with the criminalization of dissent. Are you aware that environmentalists are now deemed terrorists by the FBI? And that domestic terrorism is now our ~1 concern in the United States, and those environmentalists are the worst. So there's now a 30-year automatic sentence extension for some of the environmentalists because of the terrorism charges. So not only did they get charged with arson, they got arson plus 30 years because they were terrorists. So that's just one example of it, whereas being an environmentalist might have irritated people a few years ago. Now it's actually considered terrorism. The FBI issued a manual to police departments around the United States on what to look for as you're trying to identify terrorists. And one of the things to watch for is anybody carrying a constitution should immediately go on the honest to goodness. This is a document from the FBI to the police department. So it is very serious, and we can laugh at it, but it's, I mean, we have to laugh because it's so ludicrous when we just hear about it, but in reality, the FBI thinks it's terroristic to carry the Constitution. Because if we had our Constitution, if we went back to our Constitution, then, and if we knew about our Constitution, we would know what rights we're losing and what constitutional truths that were set up in this nation are being destroyed. And I think everybody's probably read the quote that George Bush, some of his advisors said, you know, sir, this is an opposition of the Constitution. And he said, stop shoving that thing in my face. It's just a blankety-blank piece of paper. Now, of course, we don't actually know that's true because there's a lot of rumors that come out of the White House. But he certainly acts that way, even if he didn't actually use those words. So I think that the criminalization of dissent is a huge issue for us and social justice movement. The reason for that, there are many reasons for it, but the biggest reason is because it's become really clear, especially recently, as we've seen the Democrats utterly capitulate on the stopping the war and totally give up on what it was we sent them to office to do. It's become more clear than ever that politics as usual doesn't work, and it's not going to work the way it works now. And we're going to have some sort of cleansing, restructuring of the way the government is set up right now. It's